Okay. All right. So, yeah, as I said, this is a program that I don't know how many folks have maybe seen it, but I did a video that's on our YouTube channel about this as well. And I kind of referred to Snagit as the snipping tool that comes with Windows. It's like the snipping tool on steroids. I mean, you know, you can take screen capture, screenshots, you can highlight, you can use your mouse to draw arrows or perhaps write, but it's pretty basic. It's pretty rudimentary. With Snagit, there are a lot of different capabilities and options, and I hope that by the time we're done, you'll get an idea as to some of the things that you can do with that. There's a couple different ways that you can capture these images, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So give me just a second here. All right. Okay. So this is the control window. Okay, and if you notice over here on the left-hand side, you've got some different options. You can see there's all-in-one, image and video. All-in-one is just that. You can use this setting to take a screenshot or record a video. And then if you notice, as you go down, as you click on each one, the window expands. You get more in the way of options, and the same thing happens with video. I'll kind of walk through each one of these. Go ahead.
Hey, Brant, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just called you Thad. Hey, we're looking at your other home screen. My guess is you've got a second display.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wanted to catch you before you got into it.
Sure.
So we're looking at your Jefferson County Virtual Academy login.
Just a second. Let's try this again. I'm going to do this. Sorry, everybody.
Hey, listen, we have all had gremlins this morning and last week. It's all good.
Okay. Let's try this again. How's that? Can you see the window now?
Those are your Google Slides. So the Snagit information and cost.
Yeah. And yeah, I went back and let me see here. Where'd it go? Once again, my apologies.
Nope, it's okay. There you go.
Okay.
Now we have a pop-up.
All right, there we go. All right, once again, I apologize for the 1400th time. All right, so let me back up just a little bit. So you do have the Snagit window in front of you. Okay, all right. What I was saying is you've got options over here on the left. You've got all-in-one, image and video. All-in-one is just that. You can take a screenshot or do a video from there. If you click on each one of these, the window expands and you get more in the way of options. You know, copy it to your clipboard, capture the cursor or not capture the cursor, you know, completely up to you. Preview and editor, we'll get to editor here in a second. And the same thing happens with video. You have expanded options from just the all-in-one. If you use the all-in-one, what I'll do is I will go ahead and minimize this just to kind of show you the difference. If I use the all-in-one here, you click the capture button, and it'll give you some crosshairs in the area that you can screenshot. So if I just wanted a picture of our logo here with the name underneath, you just click and drag, okay? And it gives you this menu bar down at the bottom. And this is where the all-in-one comes in. You can capture an image, as you can see, record a video, so on and so forth. So for just the image, you click camera, and it goes ahead and brings it up in the editor, all right? I'm gonna go ahead and delete that down here because I don't really need it. But if you go back to the, where are we here? Go back here. If you bring your window up again and just hit image and then hit capture, you just click and it'll take the whole, let's see here. Okay, and you can take the whole screen. As you can see, it's all the way around, but then you can actually crop it to the size that you actually want it in the editor itself. All right, so if I go back to the editor, which is down here, you can see all across the top here, you've got these different options that you can use. And I'm going to kind of go in order for the most part. I'll hop, skip, and jump around a little bit for various reasons. But the first one up here at the top left is the arrow, and that's pretty self-explanatory. What you're looking at here is an image that was taken from a book about Cesar Chavez. This was we did a reading unit where the kids read an online book, and they talked. The book talked about Cesar Chavez and the fight that he had for Mexican American workers out in the Southwest and the western part of our country. We used this image because this tool over here in this worker's hand was actually a pretty significant part of the story. This tool ended up becoming outlawed because it was absolutely, as you can see, detrimental and harmful to the worker's back. So, you can upload a question, for example, that talks about, what was the name of the tool that was used, but we decided to use this image, and to draw attention to it, we chose the arrow. Now I'm gonna move my drop down window out of the way. If you look over here on the right hand side of the screen, you can see you've got some different options. If you scroll down, there's a few more, and then you can see there's some tool properties underneath. But we actually used this image, like I said, and we used an arrow to point it out. Now, if you look at the crosshairs inside the image right now, you can see in the bottom right hand quadrant there is a logo that matches the logo at the top of the screen. So if I go ahead and click text, you'll see the lowercase a. If you go to call out, you'll see the balloon. So just a little bit of a visual reminder as to what you're actually working with. So if you're going to use an arrow to point something, you kind of have to start at the back of the arrow, so to speak. It's maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but not a big deal. Most times you think of an arrow, you start with the point, then work your way back. Just click and drag, and it will place it right into the image for you. Okay, now, if you come over here to tool properties, this is where you can make changes to the image. So if you come over here and run your cursor over, you can see you've got these guidance points here. Make sure you click on that and keep those in place. Then you can come over, for example, change the color. Okay, you can see you've got stock colors here, or you can get into the color wheel, the color bar, and make it whatever you want. But yeah, you can change the color to make it pop a little bit. You can see that there's a shadow option. The shadow for this one has been selected, for the as if the light source, so to speak, were coming straight down. You can move it to the upper left-hand quadrant, and you can see how the shadow moved. If you don't really want a shadow, you can put it right in the center, and it pretty much eliminates it altogether. If you look down underneath, you can see that it will allow you to adjust the end style, the line style, and the other end. So, for example, if you wanted to use something like this to maybe resemble a needle, like on a gauge of some kind, you can come down here to this end and click the drop down menu, and you can see you've got a lot of different options. This is the one that kind of sort of looks like a needle on a gauge of some kind. So if you get rid of the access points, that gives you a visual of what it's going to look like. Again, you can see these other ends. You can make it pretty much look however you want it to look. You can actually drop two things together by making both ends an arrow, and of course you can match that up so that they're exactly the same. You can actually control the width. You can come over here and type the width in if you want to, or you can just use the slide bar. You can make it wider, you can make it more narrow. It's completely up to you. The opacity, how clear it is, you can kind of make it go away. You've got different options there. So with the arrow, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it gives you some options to be able to draw attention to something that you want drawn attention to. Okay, so that is, excuse me here, that is the arrow. If you come up here, the next option here on the right is text, and that's pretty much exactly what it means. What you can do is you can put a text box in here somewhere, and there are different options with that as well. So in order to give yourself the text box, you click and you drag, and it will give you the text box that you want. Now, as soon as you let go, it starts giving you options. You can bold it, italicize it, underline it, your font size, your font type. You've got different options there. You can make the box a little bit bigger. So just for example's sake, I'm going to type this app, 2 P's. This was nicknamed Devil's Farm. Okay, so if you notice too, as I continued to type and the text got to be too large for the box, the border expanded with it. So you click outside the box, you can see that it's got a little bit of an outline around it. You can get rid of that altogether if you want. Again, there's the shadowing. You can, that's all here under the tool properties. If you want to change that, you can just highlight the whole thing, make the shadow go somewhere else. Again, fill is self-explanatory. The outline is where you can either make thicker or even get rid of the border that's around the letters. So if you come over here to outline and click the drop-down menu, if you go to this checkerboard option and click that, it gets rid of it altogether. Now, the shadowing is still there, of course, but you can get rid of the outline. If you want an outline on it, you can click back in and put the outline on. And then while it's still highlighted, let me get back here to that. While it's still highlighted, you can actually, this line width will actually make the border thicker or more narrow depending on whatever it is that you want. And I'm getting a little too ahead of myself here, so let me just get rid of that. But just using this as an example, again, I'm going to click on it and copy it all. And if you come down here to the outline and go to the line width, it'll make it a lot more. You can see what it does. It actually makes it fatter or more thin, depending on what it is that you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that because that doesn't say at all what I wanted it to say. Too much clicking. Or you can just get rid of the box altogether, which I think I'm going to go ahead and do. So that is that's the text option, and you can insert the text into an image, and it'll, you can drag it and click it wherever you want it to go. The next option, as you can see, is this call out. And you can see here, once you click on it, you've got different balloons, word balloons. Doesn't necessarily have to be a balloon. You can see you've just got these squares. But what you can do, of course, here is you can, we're going to make it look like this guy's speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and select this bottom balloon, and I'm going to come over here. And once again, in the bottom right-hand quadrant, there's your logo indicator. So I'm going to click toward this guy's head and drag away, and it's going to give me a balloon. And we're going to go ahead. This is killing my back. So, and then of course, just like all the others, you've got the options to change the fill color. You can give it an outline. You can not give it an outline. If you come to this shape option and hit the pull down menu, you can see that there are arrows. There are two-way arrows. And as you hover over each one, it will give you an idea as to how it looks like or what it's going to look like. So if you end up wanting one, you can just click on that and it'll keep it there for you. So I'm just to show you, I'll click on this square one and it'll make that change for you. Again, you have your font options. You've got you click your drag down or your drop down menu, and you've got all the stuff you would expect to find on any Word or Google Doc or whatever. Your font size. If you want this to be a little bit smaller, you can click and drag the bottom of the border up so it doesn't take up quite as much space. And if you noticed, when I did that, it will adjust the pointer to whatever it is that you're drawing attention to. It angles the whole thing. So that is your call out option. I want to switch things up, and before I do, does anybody have any questions so far? I mean, it's a pretty intuitive program, but does anybody have any questions before we go on? Okay, I am going to go ahead and pull up my browser, And with President's Day coming up here in the next couple of weeks, I thought I would go ahead and pull this article up from history.com, and I'm going to move my window again. So with the erase and fill option, if I come back to the Snagit window, or actually back to the editor, if you come over here to the more drop down, we're not going to get into all of these, but you can see that there are many more options than what you see up here, and you can actually adjust this this toolbar to include the stuff you can see down here. Customize toolbar. You can put up here the tools that you use the most. So that's an option for you. But I'm going to go back to this article about President's Day, and let's just say that you want to you want to take a screenshot of this and share it. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to All-in-One and hit capture, and I'm going to go ahead and click and drag, and here's our image, and click your camera, takes a picture. In my slow computer, there it is, will eventually bring that up. So let's just say you don't necessarily want these icons from the article. So if you come over here and go to eraser, once again, it'll bring up over here. You can see you've got some different size points, depending on how much, a larger image, you might want to use the larger icon to, take up less time. If you've got something a little smaller, like what we're dealing with here, you can select a smaller size. So if you notice, if you bring your cursor over into your image, it gives you, the eraser button. So once again, just like with everything else, you can click and drag. Okay, and so that stuff is gone. Now, there's that checkerboard, and that's really maybe not even a whole lot better than what you had before, because it doesn't look very good. What is all that? You get from students or what have you. If you come up here to your fill option and click that, you can see the paint dropping out of the can. If you come over here, you've got different options as well. And if you just want to make this look like it was never there at all, you can come over here to your white option, click inside where you dragged or erased, and it eliminates it. Okay. If you have a reason to maybe give something a pop of color, you can use that as well for other things. But I just wanted to show you what happened if you've got something in an image that you didn't necessarily want, but you really weren't going to do anything else with it either, and you just kind of wanted it to look like the rest of the screenshot. You can just click white, and it'll cover it up for you. Now, again, I don't know if I've mentioned this or not. I don't think I have. If something has happened and you don't necessarily like it, you can just click undo. And I don't know why you would in this case, but let's just say you wanted to give that a splash of color. You just change your color up, click fill, and there it fills in the color for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back the way that it was. So that's your erase and your fill option. One thing that I wanted to point out before I went any further too is if you look down here at the bottom, you can zoom in on your image, but there's also the option to hit actual size, and it will make it so that what you're looking at then is sometimes it gives you a little bit more in the way of detail. You can see things a lot better for editing purposes and so forth. So the actual size button is actually pretty helpful. If you click fit to screen, it does shorten it up a little bit, but then you can use your slide bar to zoom in as much as you want or need to, so that you can work on it. Okay, so that's your erase and fill. Okay, so I have down here at the bottom, these are some of the other things I've been working on, these perimeter questions over here, but it keeps, this program will keep all of the images that you capture without you having to save it. If you want to save it as a file, you can do that as well to your hard drive, but it will keep a track of all of this. If you come down, or up here rather, to the upper left-hand corner and hit library, it will bring up all the images that you've taken. And once again, slow computer. If you look, it's got it by year. It has it by the websites that you took them from, so that if you remember, oh yeah, I took that picture from XYZ website. If you scroll down and look for it, you can click on that, and it'll take you right there. So it does keep track of the images for you, and you can categorize them. You can see name, size, date, You can categorize them however you'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the editor. And I did go ahead and load a couple so I wouldn't have to actually go through the screen capture process. But this is from that same President's Day article that goes on to talk about how President's Day became a thing, and how it was always how it always ended up on a Monday and so forth. The next option up here that I want to look at here is shape. Okay, so you click that and it gives you some options over here, and you can see. Got to scroll up a little bit. This is the one I'm looking for. So you want to draw attention to this particular headline. So you can click this one, or any of them, of course, for that matter. Once again, if you look, there's your icon in the bottom right-hand quadrant, and you're clicking and dragging. You're going to hear that a lot. Click and drag, and it will expand to whatever size or shape you want it to conform to. Your options are still the same. You come down here over to under tool properties, you can fill it in. Of course, if you remember, the checkerboard means no fill. If I've got it clicked so I can edit it, you bring it down to fill. You can, I don't know why you would, unless you just really want that shape. You're not necessarily highlighting something. You click fill, it'll fill the whole thing in. If you want to, give it another color, school colors or what have you, that's an option as well. But since we're using it here to highlight the headline, we don't have any fill. There are different shapes here, not too awful many, but just like before, if you scroll over it, it will give you what it is that you're looking for as you're hovering, and then you can click whatever it is you like, or just go back to where you were and leave it alone. Your shadow is the same. The thickness of the border, you can use the slide bar. It'll make the border thicker or wherever you want it to be. Once again, you can kind of make it fade into the background a little bit if you would like. So I'll click out of that so you can see it's not as obnoxious, maybe. I don't know if it's the right word or not, but again, you've got some options as to what it looks like. Okay, so that's the stamp. Let me see here. I think it's this one. Let me go back to my browser here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the printable version because I want to get rid of some of the ads and so forth that you see with the regular version. So I am going to move this window once again, and I'm going to click capture. Back that up just a little bit. Okay, so I want this section. So click and drag, let go, click the camera, and brings it up into my editor. Okay, so the next option up here is stamp. And this is actually probably one of the more in-depth options. If you look over here, there's been a drop down for most of them, and it's said basic or urban. If you click this drop down menu, I mean, you've got math, you can see algebra, you've got business, charts and graphs, cursors, operating system, PC, I mean, you've got a lot of different options here. So for example, if we are, we're talking about the fact that Uniform Monday was an act. Okay, so it was an act of Congress. So if I go back up rather to accents, okay, and scroll down, you can see there are check marks, there are X's, there are stars. I mean, there's different options, and I'll show you some of the others here in a second. But since you're talking about voting, an act of Congress, we're going to use a check mark. So you come over here and place it where you want it. And if you don't like that, that's too close, you can expand it, or you can move the whole thing. You can make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to get rid of that second one. Heavy fingers. There we go. And then just move the whole thing wherever you want it to go. You can insert that in there. Just to kind of show you some of the other options here under accents. Hand drawn. If you look at this one, it gives you options that look like things were hand drawn, arrows and dialogue boxes, and play and pause and stop, and you got letters of the alphabet. So that's the English hand drawn. If you come down here to, where did it go? Let me see here. Come to iOS, iPhones, and if you scroll down, you've got your pin drop, your location pin. There's images of an iPhone. So if you want to draw, if you're creating a document and it's you're talking about something that people can access through your phone, you can use these options. I mean, there are a lot of different options for stamps underneath the stamp option. Charts and graphs, just to kind of show you, you've got pie charts, you've got bar graphs, up arrows, down arrows for stock. Just there are a lot of different options here. I've used this quite a bit myself. So that's your stamp option. Now move. This is one that I kind of came across recently, and I'm going to use this picture right here. This is an actual image that we took and used on a lesson for math, obviously. And the question that we were using actually had to have this image because, as you can see, the whole point of the math problem is to figure out how many centimeters make up this side of the triangle. So I took a screenshot of this image, and to me, that it just felt, I mean, to make the picture not as, when you load these pictures into these virtual learning units, they can take up too much space and they become a little bit overbearing. And so one thing I noticed when I looked at this particular picture was I thought there's just a little bit too much distance between the perimeter, 239 centimeters, and the rest of the image. So if you hit move and then come over here, and you have to toggle this smart move button. So click on that. It starts identifying what on the image can be moved. So if you notice, there were things that flashed blue. What I did is what you can do rather is you can come in here and click and drag perimeter and bring it down to where you want it. Now, if you notice, there's that checkerboard above that shows where it came from. I know I showed you erase and fill a couple minutes ago, but watch what happens when I let go of the cursor. It fills in on its own. So you don't actually have to go back in and get rid of that. Now, if I want to, I can now take the top of this border and drag it down so that it's all a little bit tighter and it doesn't take up as much space in whatever it is that, whatever it is you're trying to do. Like I said, the image could have been a little bit big, but by dragging the words down and then making the picture smaller, it took up a lot less space and it wasn't nearly as it didn't take up as much space as it could have if we didn't have that option. This is one that I find myself using a lot. To move text, to make things a little bit smaller, to bring things closer together, to get rid of that unwanted, really unneeded, unnecessary space on some of these images that we use. I'm going to go back to, let's go to this one. Okay. Okay, so the next one is I'm going to come over here to my more option. And the first one here at the top is blur. So what you can do with this one, if you click on it and if you come over here to your styles, you can make it look like something has been digitized. Let's say, for example, let's look at this third paragraph. It says the Uniform Monday Holiday Act also included a provision to combine the celebration of Washington's birthday with that of Abraham Lincoln. Well, maybe this is something that for whatever reason you want them to look up themselves, just a little extended activity. So you can you pick whichever one of these that you want to use. Once again, you're going to click and drag over top, and you're just going to drag over top of it and it'll hide it. Okay. Just a way to kind of get rid of something, but maybe draw attention to it at the same time. And then I just kind of thought of this myself. If you come back over here to stamps and then go back to your accents, if you noticed there was a question mark, you could kind of put this right here and it'll draw attention to the fact that there's something maybe in that paragraph that you want them to see. So this is, using a couple of different options here, but the blur option, if you come back in here, you can adjust the intensity of it. This one just looks like it's gone away. Again, the darker it is, it does look a little more digitized, like something's been pixelated out. So your blur option allows you to cover something up without actually removing it or getting rid of it. You can see here that the intensity, there's a slide bar on that as well, makes it almost indistinguishable, or all the way down here to the bottom where you can kind of see it, or somewhere in between. So there is your blur option. Going back over to our more, you can highlight down here under highlighter. Now, I remember that this is one of the options that you had, excuse me, when you use your snipping tool. But when you highlight using your snipping tool, your highlight is, it's going to be at the mercy of how steadily you can hold your hand. With this one, it's the same deal. You're going to click and drag over whatever it is that you want to, whatever it is you want to highlight. We'll just do the late 1960s. You want to draw attention to that, click and drag, and there it is. If you want to edit it in some way, once again, click on it. Your fill is over here. You can, your traditional highlighter yellow. Once again, as far as how thick it is, you can use your bar to make it a lot more intense or a lot less intense. But there is your highlighter option. Now, let's say for whatever reason, there's something in the information or something in your screen capture that you don't necessarily need or want. If you come back up here to the more option, there's an option down here called Cutout. So if you click on that and look over here under your quick styles, you can see that you've got different options. Now, this first one, if you use that, of course, you can see there's horizontal and vertical. But if you look at this first horizontal one, I'll show you what happens. Let's say for whatever reason, like I said, you don't need this paragraph. You just want to get rid of it. So if you hold your cursor and then click and drag over top of it, if you watch what happens when I let go, it's going to remove that paragraph. And for whatever reason, it changed. So I'm going to hit undo. And I'm going to go back to this. If you let go of that, it's going to bring the whole thing together. If you notice, our Abraham Lincoln paragraph moved up. The whole thing moved up. So you can actually get rid of something and it's seamless. You can't tell it was there. Now, if you want to, I'm going to get rid of that so I can put that back in there. If you want to get rid of something, but give it a little bit of an effect, what I did here a second ago was the horizontal tear. If you click and drag on that, it will get rid of that and it'll leave a tear right there in the center. Once again, if you remember, there is your checkerboard. That means that's something that can be filled in. Go to whatever color it is you want. I mean, you can make it white if you want. I don't know why you would do that on a tear, but if you come up here, you can fill it with whatever color it is that you want to fill it with. So I'll bring that back to the red, but that was a kind of a nice option that, like I said, on one hand, to give it some personality with the tear, but if you just wanted to get rid of something completely, you can come back here to Cutout and click and drag. It's not going to work for me because I didn't change it. There we go. If you just want to get rid of something altogether, it just removes it all. So that is your Cutout option. Trying to get through this because I know we're running short on time. Go back to my browser. And I actually had, I did have our login page for our VLA. I am going to go ahead and take another screenshot. And I'm going to do where we have our enter your credentials over here and take a picture. Okay, so if you come back over here to more, if you look down here toward the bottom, you've got step. Now, what this allows you to do is it allows you to place sequential points of some kind. You can use just the circles. You can actually point to something. You can use numbers or letters. If you come down here to type underneath tool properties, you can use numbers, you can use uppercase letters, you can use lowercase letters. You've got different types of shapes if you click this drop down menu. So just kind of using our credential login as an example, let's just say that you want to want to show somebody the steps that they have to use in order to log into your website. So you click over here. Once again, you see in the bottom right hand quadrant, you've got your number. So you can click, and if that's too far away for you, you can just drag the whole thing over and place it wherever you like it. Now, the next thing that I think is pretty handy and convenient is, obviously the first thing you want to enter, use your name. The second thing is your password. if you notice, the number has already changed in the bottom right-hand quadrant to whatever the next number is. So you can see that whatever it is going to be a 2. So you can click once again, and it'll place it where you want it. Now, if you notice, they're not quite lined up. So if you click and drag, once you reach a point where they are lined up, the program will give you a line to show you that it's centered on the image above. Okay, let me get rid of that. Now, let's say you want to start all over again. You can see that there's a 3 now in the bottom of the quadrant there. If you want to start all over again, what you can do is you can right click, and the very first option you have is restart sequence, and there's your 1. Okay, so if you want to move to another part of the image or do something, do something different or go to a different set of instructions, you can restart the sequence at 1. You don't have to close out of this and go to another one and come back. You can restart the sequence by right clicking, and it'll give you that option. Okay, so just real briefly, the last option that I would like to show you, I'm going to go back to my browser, is I pulled up The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And, in order to read this whole thing, you got to do a lot of scrolling, as you can see. It just, there's a lot to it. So if you want to actually create a video, you're going to come back to your option window, and you can do either video or all-in-one. I'm just going to leave it right here. Click capture. You're going to get your crosshairs once again, and you're going to click and drag over the section of the screen that you want to be recorded. Now, we've been clicking the camera the whole time, you can see over here, the second one is recorded video. It's, a video camera. So what you're going to do is you're going to click this, and it's going to start to initialize, as you can see. And once it's ready, it'll tell you, that'll go away. Once again, slow computer issues. And let me see, we're going to go ahead and continue. Okay, there it is. So you can see your start button down here. When you hover over it, you can see what it's for. So click record, it'll give you a countdown. There it is. And then you can start scrolling. You can see that everything else on the page stays the way it is, but you can continue to scroll down through the rest of the poem. Okay, so when you're done, you can click stop, finish recording. It'll bring it up into your editor. Now you can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, it looks like a film reel. You've got the guides on the side, and that's how you can tell. Of course, there's a counter down there too, but you can see that's one way of being able to quickly identify whether or not you're looking at a screen capture or a video. You can cut things out. If you notice, once I got to the end, I didn't want to go all the way to the end. I picked up those icons at the end. You can drag back to where on the progress bar, you can drag back to where that didn't necessarily show up. There we go. Okay, so anyway, you can drag this back a little bit and go from here. And if there's anything that you want to get rid of, as soon as you drag these two cursors apart, you can hit cut. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because there's one last thing I want to show you. If you look down here, you can actually create a GIF. This is helpful for making a quick little image that allows maybe allows somebody to watch how to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel. So I'm going to drag my progress bar here, and I'm going to take the red section and drag, and it gives me this part of the video. If you come down here and click GIF, would you like to create the GIF? You can use the whole video or use just what's selected. So if you click use selection, and you have the option to fade it to black when it's done. But if you don't want that, you don't have to click it. So then go ahead and click create. It's creating the GIF. And you can see now here it is down here. It's been added, and you can see that it's been indicated as a GIF that's different from the video. So if I go ahead and pull that up and hit play. And it loops. Now, there's an option to have it not loop, but most of the time, whenever someone produces a GIF, they do it so that it loops. So that's an option as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that. And the last thing I want to show you before we get out of here is where'd it go? There we go. Okay, so Snagit is it's a paid program, and I've had this feeling all day that I'm going to go ahead and do it. I am not in any way, shape, or form endorsed or compensated. I'm compensated by TechSmith, as you can see there in the at the top of the information. It is not a free service. It does have a free trial if you want to give it a look. This is how much it costs per license. So as you can see, the more people that sign up for it, they continue to reduce cost. So if you wanted an individual account on your own, it's $38. If you can get 4 or 5 friends to sign up with you, it drops at almost $10. And then, of course, the more people you add, if a district is looking at it, you actually would need to contact their sales department. Again, I was a little, I don't want to say hesitant, but it's such a great program. I almost feel like if I didn't have it through where I worked, actually, I don't almost feel I would end up getting it, because it allows you to do so many different things, professional documents, professional screen captures, the ability to create GIFs, videos and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew where to go if you were interested. This is the website. And then the last thing is, I just wanted to let you know how to get in touch with me. Again, there's my contact information. If you have any questions at any point, that's my phone number and my extension, my email, and there's my Calendly link if you would like to set up an appointment of some kind. So outside of that, does anybody have any questions? All right, well, if that's the case, I am going to go ahead and stop the share. And I am going to pull this up. And I think if we're good, I'm going to stop recording, Michelle. Is that all right? All right.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm going to put